What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the GSL. We have had a little week off. Missed you guys. Good to be back. Today and tomorrow, we're going to be wrapping up the round of 8. And, of course, in just a few days after that, we'll be going to the round of 4 and the finals.
Yeah, finals actually pushed all the way to Sunday, so a little bit of a schedule change. I can't remember if we talked about that last time before we went on break or when that change took place.
I don't remember for sure. It was a pretty sudden change, so welcome back, everybody. But, yeah, if you're going to be joining us for the finals, it's not on Friday. It's on Sunday now.
Yeah, and I actually heard from the producer those tickets sold out already,
yes.
which is no surprise given the way things have been going.
Yeah, there are some tickets that are available still for the round of 8 for today and tomorrow. But, yeah, our finals have already sold out, unsurprisingly.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the games today. Rogue, Solar, GuMiho, and Maru are going to be welcoming us back to the GSL round of 8 here as we get started with Group A. And it's going to be fun to really dive into TVZ again like this. I feel like we haven't really had too many groups where we've had just 2 races or even just 1 race.
We've had a couple coming up here. But, yeah, it's going to be a lot of TVZs. Could be all TVZs. Either that or some TVZs with some mirror matchups here. But no Protosses today. We saved all those for tomorrow.
Yeah, Maru, clear favorite coming out of this one, of course, with that huge performance in Dallas before. Now 50% here to advance to the round of 4. He didn't look exactly himself in GSL Season 1 about, I want to say, like a month ago when he was playing those first couple of games, especially when he decided to play Protoss. But
that was so weird.
Since then, Tasteless, he's been looking really solid, especially going up against Solar in that very first match. I mean, historically, he's been really good against Solar, especially here offline in Korea. So, yeah, I think definitely going to be a favorite advancing from this group.
Yeah, it was so weird to see him play Protoss and to then be excited about that, and then to see that it was actually horrible, and it's like, oh, you should just stick with your main race. You're not that good.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he has looked a little bit shaky. Of course, it's Maru. I think he's always able to stabilize and come out strong. I think he's still one of the favorites to take this entire tournament. And he'll be going up against Solar, no, is he going up against Solar?
Yeah,
right?
I think
he
so.
Is. Yeah, excuse me.
First match.
And that's going to be a tough one. I think Solar's been looking very strong, but I do think Maru is just, as always, pretty much in better form than him.
Yeah. Although I will say that basically everyone feels like they're in much better form now than they were a couple of weeks ago when we did GSL Season 1. You know, the long break that we had after EWC 2024 before the circuit got renewed here for 2025. You know, the GSL came back and DreamHack, or at least Dallas came back, and all these other tournaments started coming back, and now we're going light speed. It feels like even though this is going to be really taxing on all of the players, the base level of skill that we're seeing from the pros now is just light years ahead of even like a month ago. It feels like everyone is just completely locked in, getting ready for that World Championship just a couple of weeks away.
So, you know, it's going to be nice to have this season wrapped up. You were saying earlier, like, we had a whole lot of downtime here with StarCraft 2. There was a lot of uncertainty to if and when these, not just the EWC, but all these leagues which are kind of linked into the EWC. We sort of plug ourselves in as a filter mechanism to see who the best players are. They go to the Esports World Cup and play. But because of delays, we just didn't have that much StarCraft. So it's been kind of wild to just suddenly have everything happening at once. It's like every day there's something StarCraft 2 going on. Different tournament organizers are struggling to have their stuff filled in the empty spots here. So, yeah, I mean, it's been fun to see the players really back into shape as we're here in Season 2. And it's going to be nice to see who's going to be taking this. Could be Hero again, by the way, winning this season once more. I mean, he looked to be in great shape in Season 1, which was just a few weeks ago. And with the way our schedule's been squished together, we're already here towards the end of Season 2 this week.
Yeah, honestly, it does feel like basically anybody in the round of 8 can take it. It's gotten so competitive out here. Maru's looking, as I said, way better than he was in GSL Season 1. He might be back for another GSL title. I mean, there's so much to say about the players, but of course, GSL right now, it is crowdfunded. If you guys want to support, you get all these nice perks that you see on screen. The replay package somehow miraculously always gets sent out to patrons before I get home after a cast.
Yes.
So they are on point. They are on point with these updates. If you want to contribute, $10 a month. I think that's the best bang for your buck getting that replay package. It is such a treat to be able to lock in and see exactly how those games shake out, especially if you want to play them on the ladder and try and do, your own little GuMiho build or something like that. Could be a very useful tool to have in your belt.
So the week before last week, we wrapped up the round of 12 here with Group A and B, taking the 2 survivors of each group and then filtering them to the round of 8. And by the time we're done with tomorrow night, we will have our final 4 players. Funny distribution. A lot of times we get that golden ratio where we have 1 of each race in the group. Obviously, with only 3 races, we have a doubling of one of those, maybe 2 Zergs, 2 Terran, 2 Protosses. But then there are times when we have a little bit of a lopsided distribution, and that's what's happened in these groups here now. It's 2 Zergs and 2 Terrans, leaving us with the reality of a possible deep dive here into the matchup TVZ. Possible 5 TVZs, depending on how everything pans out. And, of course, it's going to be a lot of PvP madness tomorrow.
Yeah, and then Bunny's going to be running the gauntlet of the 3 best Protoss players in Korea. I do not envy Bunny at all. And by the way, it is worth noting that most of the players in the round of 8 for GSL have already qualified for AWC. There's only a couple of spots left. I think 3 of the players that we have right now in the round of 8 are still looking for that spot, and this guy right here is one of them. Rogue would love to make it to that championship, and so there's a lot on the line, not just a GSL Codes title, but every match, every placement matters, because you're trying to beat out the other 2 guys who are here in the round of 8 for placement, because like if Hero wins GSL, he's already qualified for AWC. They're not going to seed him in twice. That's going to go down the ranks until we finally get one player who hasn't booked that ticket to Riyadh. And I would love to see Rogue there. I would love to see a lot of these players there. Only time's going to tell. But for Rogue, I have to say, TVZ right now, it's looking really dangerous for these Zergs. These Cyclone builds that we've seen GuMiho have doing is been really crazy, and in addition, also it feels like even if you don't play a Cyclone build, the killing potential of some of these Terran openings is so scary on 3 command centers.
A couple years ago, maybe about a little bit over 2 years ago, it did feel like the Zerg had the ability to basically stretch the game out, where it was very hard to see them die to a push. It was almost remarkable if we saw like a Zerg's 4th base get busted down and run over, and they were just able to kind of sustain and hang on. And that the result of that is it brought us to the exhaust play from Terrans, which is we'll try with a push, but once we're confident it's not going to work, we're going to pull back. We're going to turtle for the rest of the game and try to bleed the Zerg out for resources on their side of the map, kind of reversing the roles since Zerg grow faster than Terrans do on the map. But you're right, State. It seems like now Terran have a lot more lethality with their pushes and able to kind of kill the Zerg off. So it's going to be a lot more down to whether or not Rogue can hang on and defend in the early game. Anyways, guys, that's ready to go now. Okay, Rogue here in the top left, GuMiho in the bottom right.
Already rallied into the refinery.
Yeah.
With GuMiho and TVZ these days, I feel like the question is not whether you're going to see a Cyclone. The question is how many Cyclones are you going to see?
Yeah, this really does feel like out of all the eras we've had in StarCraft 2, but obviously with Legacy of the Void and the role the Cyclones had in it, Cyclones feel stronger than ever now. And it's hard to not want to just go for them here.
They kind of are.
And at this point in time, we've had GuMiho go for mech and Cyclone play more often than he has avoided it.
And he's always been the player to kind of push the envelope in terms of going mech in matchups where, mech might not really be. Oh, is that Artosis in the audience? Rogue is the GOAT? Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, welcome, everybody. It's good to see you guys down here. So, yeah, I mean, if I had to bet, I think we're going to see Cyclones here. Actually, and I could be wrong, you correct me if you think I'm wrong about this, I think Solar might be in a little bit better shape than Rogue as of right now.
I would agree with that.
Even though I think Rogue has historically overshadowed Solar, literally being one of the most accomplished players in the whole game. But if we don't see Cyclones here now, I think they're going to be coming more often than not in this series. But it's possible he has alternative builds that he thinks he can just pick a game off of Rogue with.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. But with a gas burst opening like this one, I think it's almost an inevitability.
Factory and barracks at the entrance here. This is much harder to pull off if you're in the top left and they're in the bottom right, because add-ons always stick out. of the bottom right. Even then, I mean, there is a big Achilles heel here, having your tech out. I don't know if Rogue's going to look at that and have some kind of plan to come in and try to punish that, but I just want to put that out there. You know, you feel safe when you have all these big, beefy buildings in the way, but they are super important in everything that you have that's going to let you develop.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought because I feel like for Ro going into this series here against GuMiho, you're probably expecting exactly what you and I were saying. He's going to make Cyclones. He's going to go mech. He's probably going to mix in Battle Cruisers at some point as we see, the add-on switch coming in. Reaper is going to be able to shoo that Ling away, but even a couple seconds delay right here is going to be a hiccup in the...
Oh, it gets in the main too.
That's good for Rogue. But I mean, you see the factory switching onto the reactor like this is Zerg. I would imagine that Rogue coming into this GSL, of course, given that we just had a week off and you know these matchups in advance as the players, might have something special cooked up for how to deal with specifically GuMiho's flavor of mech. I don't know if that's going to be something like a Nidus Worm. Rogue has used Swarm Host in the past to varying degrees of success to try and deal with Terran mech. I'm curious. I'm very eager to see what he's going to be doing here against GuMiho, because GuMiho right now, especially in this matchup, seems like one of the hardest players in the world to prepare for as the Zerg.
Well, it just feels like he's in the game's current state is such that like what he was already doing looks really strong now, stronger than even before. We've got Banshees with Cloak coming up here. I think this is actually the second drone that was sent out here. I think there was one that was sent out a little bit ago that was killed. But he's going to try to run in. I mean, look, delaying the third hatch twice is nice. I hope I'm not imagining that the first drone was killed, but I believe I saw a drone being sent out a little bit earlier. So, yeah, I mean, for the time being, Rogue is just trying to grow. GuMiho's done a good job controlling and basically shutting stuff down. We've got a couple roaches being made, but this is generally just to kind of drive away the Hellions that are orbiting around the outside of the Zerg's creep and bases.
Yeah, still only 43 drones as the third hatchery goes down. We'll see if more drones follow. They are getting trickled out. And I'm leaning towards what you're saying, that there's just going to be enough roaches on the ground to really shoo away the Hellions. And if there are any initial Cyclones, those first couple of Cyclones. But for now, GuMiho back at home. He is happy to macro up. He's building a third command center, adding on 2 additional factories. And he's actually mixing in siege tanks relatively quickly here. So we haven't seen a Cyclone just yet. His Cloak is done. This Spore Crawler, not near completion. We do have 2 Overseers on the map. None of them are here in the main base, though. So a lot of drones getting taken down.
I mean, this is way more than I thought would actually be hit. The Hellions try to come in. They're driven away. The Banshee takes damage, but it's going to get out and could be repaired later on. And all this is setting up for, you know, a very comfortable push, a very comfortable move out here. We have that third command center done, and it is more factory, so it is mech. But, you know, every drone that's killed off, especially when it's not even at the sacrifice of a Banshee, but just at the sacrifice of the Banshee's health, that's really good. That's really strong for the Terran.
Yeah, and with the third base so delayed here for Rogue, he's only just now starting to mine from it. GuMiho's got a pretty sizable lead in terms of economy. Like a 3-worker differential here at, what, almost 6 minutes? It's not really what you want as Rogue in this situation. And I'm very curious about the way that GuMiho is approaching this. I was fully expecting him to open with Battle Mech. That has kind of been his MO here in the early game, but he's going 2 factory siege tank right now. This is kind of...
Yeah. Well, I think it's siege tank accumulation maybe into Cyclones later on.
Yeah, it could be, but this is a different flavor of TBZ mech that we've seen from GuMiho.
It is. No, it's different. I kind of dig it, though. So with the Cyclone style, you kind of run in, you target stuff, and then you just kite. You just abuse the fact that the Cyclone is just a more mobile unit and can target and lock onto things, especially if you have vision of it. And you sort of chisel them down. You kind of try to bleed them out over time, and eventually you reach that kind of tipping point. It seems like this is going to be more one where he's going to have a lot of tanks accumulated up and probably have this kind of jaw-breaking push.
Yeah, and Rogue is actually going to be the one that's going to flip the script and get aggressive here,
yeah.
Tasteless. He has cut drones at 53, and there are a ton of Roach, Ravager, and Hydras streaming across the map. I feel like this is a move that you do anticipating Battle Mech from the opponent, But GuMiho is nothing but Hellbats, Banshees, and Siege Tanks. It's going to be really hard to break this position. Rogue now pushing in. These Hydras off creep, they're trying to get in, but there's so many Siege Tanks. The Hydra's just melting on the front line. The army here, Berserk, in shambles. More drones getting queued up. And this attack just gets perfectly deflected by GuMiho. Basically no damage done to the Terran. And this is GuMiho, his mix-up from previous weeks of GSL, where he was opting for the battle mech. Now here, we're back from a 1-week break. He's switched the style. He's made basically nothing but Siege Tanks, Hellbats, and Banshees. And he takes no damage. He's ahead in workers. He's equal in supply going mech against a Zerg. This is a fantastic position for GuMiho.
So, you know, honestly, when you see that many tanks in general, it's if there's one thing that's going to stop a whole bunch of units, you know, hurtling at you, trying to run you over, it's going to be enough tanks, right? Tanks are the strongest defending unit. These are being made to push later on. But yeah, if you're going to go 2-factory siege tank, I don't think the Roach Ravager is going to work. I think the siege tank damage spread is going to be too high. So, you know, a lot of games we have it where maybe you get the command center to lift off and they try to do some damage, but over time the tech is superior and better in late game for the Terran. They can make it work there. The Zerg might max out and try to hit again and then have to switch in later. That was a pretty abysmal attack in. I mean, he basically just didn't get anything done, sacrificed a bunch of units that have no utility in a super long game, and GuMiho's growth has been completely uninterrupted.
6 Hellbats and 2 Marines died, and basically nothing else.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got 3 more command centers about to finish up here, so he's about to double his income, depending on how many of these actually land at bases. But you know he's going to push out here soon.
I almost feel like GuMiho doesn't need to. He certainly could, but the way this game is going so far with 10 siege tanks already, you're going up to 80 workers, you're taking the 4th base.
We've seen this a couple times, and it does feel like Terran can really grow out. And you know, sometimes Zergs, they want to like counterattack and try to draw you back, and I think the play from GuMiho is to just not flinch at that, push into somewhere central, siege up, and then just have enough tanks and cyclones that you can kind of hold off the attack, maybe sacrificing a base or two, but ultimately pushing Zerg and damaging them in a way that's going to be fatal later on.
Yeah, honestly, if I'm GuMiho in this position, I'm just waiting until I max. I've gotten my 5 bases up. I'm adding in all these additional command centers. I have who knows how many factories as Cyclone Transition is coming and a second armory is online. Blue Flame is getting researched. When GuMiho gets to a maxed army, it is going to be really a difficult task for Rogue to actually put a dent into this force. I mean, talk about an optimized army. Double-digit siege tanks, soon to be double-digit cyclones with full upgrades.
I mean, it's going to be so scary. It's going to be so tough to fight. We've got the Vipers coming here. That's going to be really important when it comes to actually fighting off, you know, a lot of these tanks and harpooning them in and trying to get kills. We're basically maxed out now, so Terran's going to be moving out, and I think he wants to wedge his way here, maybe down to the bottom left and then up a little bit. Just kind of be in striking distance of everything. Clearly, he wants these rocks destroyed so he can make a beeline up into that position. He's got enough back at home. Zerg does not appear to want to counterattack. Instead, they're going to try to just pull away vulnerable units, have the Hydras and Ravagers kill them, and then try to hang on that way. But that's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy for Rogue to pull that off.
Yeah, with these Vikings, too, I believe that's enough that they can start one-shotting Vipers. So, yeah, Rogue just could actually abduct the Vikings and then take a pretty good engagement right now. He's trading off mostly the Roaches. You're actually pushing in. He's getting on top of the siege tanks. Biles are coming in. A bit of an overextension here for GuMiho, and Rogue seizing the moment right there. Taking down the Vikings, recognizing they are the threat to the Vipers. And that is a really nice trade here for the Zerg to start things out. Anytime you could whittle down the siege tank count like this here for GuMiho, it's going to go a long way towards slowing down this push.
He's going to continue to leapfrog the tanks. Zerg's remaxed. I think the tank count might be a little bit too thin. 3 Ravager Biles is going to pick off 1 tank, so you really need the tanks layered in such a way that anytime the Zerg attacks in, they're going to lose a lot when they try to hit. And it seems like we have 3 or 4 tanks in the background that can hit, but a lot more daisy chained together, maybe too far back to make much of a difference.
And behind all this, we had a glimpse of the production tab. 3 more starports just finished up for GuMiho. So he's preparing for transition behind this too, as Rogue once again attacks in. Viper is going to be blinding Cloud and abducting all these siege tanks. A pretty good trade right now for Ro.8. He is breaking through this line of tanks. It is an expensive trade, but some really good moves coming out of our Zerg. Biles raining down on this siege tank as well, and basically the entire front line of siege tanks gets routed. GuMiho is going to have to fall back to this planetary fortresses. Will he remax on Cyclones or more siege tanks? He basically just got reset on the board. His army supply all the way down to 65, as Ro continuing to push in.
I mean, you got to point out, when you lose tanks, they take a long time to remake. So we're seeing less and less tanks over time, which means the whole position here for GuMiho is just a lot more fragile. He has leaned more into Cyclones, which are a little bit better at a back and forth here. I mean, there's not a whole lot that, like, as an example, Roaches can do to fight Cyclones, right? They can attack into them, the Cyclone runs away, they can retreat themselves, and then the Cyclone will chase them down and get the kill. They just have an advantage as far as speed and range goes. But yeah, the push itself was shut down by Rogue. And, you know, we have Terran with an actually shockingly good spread of bases. Unless I'm missing this, I think they're literally even in bases, which is kind of a weird thing to see in a 13-minute TVZ. Terran actually just sitting on a lot of real estate right now. But I think the punch that GuMiho had packed is kind of gone, right? I mean, the siege tanks are we're not even seeing them being made anymore. It's kind of a weird hodgepodge of Hellions, Cyclones, and then like Vikings, which is kind of a funny mix to fight. We have Infestors in the mix, which is going to shut down these Cyclones really bad. Banshees as well, if he can target them.
Oh, this is such a cool move by GuMiho, adding in Banshees again. He has 5 Banshees right now. I think those 3 Starports are putting in the work in Banshee production. There's very little anti-air left for Rogue. And so, okay, the Queens are finally able to clean this up. Nice move by Rogue being able to clean those. But losing Infestors like that, Fungals like this are going to be how you catch the Cyclones, as Rogue is once again, he's moving in. One Fungal is going to take down 3 of the Cyclones, but you see the micro potential here for Terran. Even on creep is so high, these Cyclones, they lock on so quickly. Those sacrificial Banshees allow this move to happen because Fungal, it's not the threat that it once was. Hellbat's also transforming in. GuMiho just throwing away minerals right now. His economy is through the roof at 88 workers, all of these bases. Seems like Rogue is going to stabilize, but again, tasteless, the Banshees coming back. And they're just getting so much value right now in the sky.
Both sides have had supplies plummeted. A kind of random novelty Swarm Host comes through. They're a nice job with the Lings actually killing some SCVs off. That's a big win here for Rogue. The problem is that I think that the army that GuMiho has, you know, he had such deep pockets here with the resources. It seems like that's actually plummeted quite a bit. They're both very low on gas. Quite a lot of resources, minerals, I mean. For GuMiho. But yeah, I was thinking maybe GuMiho could kind of hang on with this back and forth. The counterattacks are making a big difference. What an unusual game, by the way. Both sides on so many bases. Nobody really losing expansions just yet. It's just 2 giant armies smashing into each other here in the middle of the map in this kind of tug of war that we're seeing play out.
Yeah, Rogue has done a phenomenal job of stabilizing, by the way. After that initial push into the natural and third base of GuMiho, I was so scared once that maxed mech army came out, but he has done just a magnificent job of slowing the growth of GuMiho on Rogue's side of the map. That 5th base has not been shut down yet here for Rogue here in the center. And GuMiho, he's basically had to pivot off of siege tanks back into this battle mech composition with Banshees now adding in the battle cruisers, but I don't know how this is going to shake out. We have 11 Infestors on the field right now for Zerg. Some of those are going to get focused down by the Banshees here on the left flank as Rogue takes another good trade. And with Neural Parasite here on the table, there is actually some big potential for Rogue in this next fight to get big damage done against GuMiho, who's relying on these high-tech units. Neural Parasite nearing completion right now. It's about 90% done, 15 seconds away.
For a second, I thought, oh, where did he go?
Into the main.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah, making the battle cruisers, he might just be playing right into his hands. You know, having these big, juicy targets that Neural Parasite are going to get absolute crazy value out of. But warping into the main, you know, it creates a pretty big diversion. The Infestors, I believe they're all just headed back towards the main, so they're not able to help out here in this fight. Terran's kind of, okay, he gets the Neural Parasite. He's going to go for 2 more, but the Hive has been killed.
Yeah, and there also isn't any anti-air really Rogue on the ground, and BCs don't kill BCs that fast. So this is kind of awkward.
This is exhausting to watch. This is wild.
How many BCs are you realistically able to kill with all the energy you have on those Infestors right now? I feel like one of them might go down, but This is actually so expensive from Rogue's perspective.
Yeah, this is
just
so much
energy.
mana.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because when you think about mana, it's like, well, that's maybe one of the most incredible resources in the game because you can just keep casting it and it'll come back later. But that's such a mana dump.
It's like a Monty Python sketch. Just all these turtles.
Oh my God! And one gets away.
We haven't even had a single battle cruiser go down. Oh man.
Oh my God! He's got to run out.
I love this so much.
Get the other one. Is there nothing else that has it?
I've never seen something like this. All right, finally we're going to clean up one of these battle cruisers. We're idling like a dozen infestors in the main base of Rogue right now to try and deal with these 3 BCs. I have tears in my eyes.
He's going to try to come down again. I don't know, man. GuMiho's got quite a bit. You know, taking out the main is huge. This base down here at the bottom left, it seems like it's going to be neglected. There's no real way to kind of come in here and defend. By the way, you know, there's at least 3 more battle cruisers out here on this map. Taking fights, because we know there was oh, I'm sorry. There's actually 2 that lived through there. For some reason, I thought there was only 1. So, I mean, Terran's going to be able to push up here. Terran has now outgrown the Zerg, by the way. I mean, he's basically got the entire center right and a little bit north of that. Tech's been reset. I don't think there was any key tech tree buildings that were killed. Doesn't matter. GG. GuMiho wins that. In kind of a, like, I'm going to make it work no matter what fashion. We had, like, the initial tank push come out, and I thought Rogue handled that really well. And he had some good counterattacks. I think Rogue probably could have countered a little bit more, by the way. Terran was, like, way overexposed on a lot of the map, especially when you go tanks and you're pushing. That means there has to be loose, exposed areas elsewhere, right? I mean, when you're making tanks over Cyclones to start, you're going to have less just kind of stuff on the board, so to speak. The tank's more expensive, it takes longer, and does more damage. So that was a cool game. But, you know, when the battle cruisers came out and they warped in the main, and then it just seemed like it was a really uncomfortable situation for Rogue. He kind of had the neural parasite, and I think didn't realize how much work that's going to take. The infestors couldn't be used for anything else during that push. I think that's what won him the game.
Yeah, lack of anti-air really a thorn in the side of Rogue. As we're going to go into game number 2 here in a moment. GuMiho leading match number 1 here in the round of 8 Group A, 1-0. Is he going to win 2-0, or will Rogue fight back on ley lines? Let's get to it.
Okay, Rogue here in the top right, GuMiho in the bottom left. GuMiho, you know, he went with the mech style here. Kind of nice to have him in this group with Maru, because Maru does, not that Maru won't go mech, but Maru does just fundamentally look at the whole matchup very differently from GuMiho. But it's interesting. A lot of games that I cast with mech, I feel like what happens is they're trying to build up to some kind of critical mass, and it either works or it doesn't, you know? And what we saw in that last game was like, he was beaten back and kind of still just powered through. GSL forever, hell yeah. I agree. Oh, we saw a little Stay Tasteless sign. I saw that. Thank you very much.
It's actually really interesting because I think back to Mech and Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, and it very much was exactly what you said. It either works or it doesn't, basically right out of the gates, and it's usually very slow and kind of creeping across the map and taking territory. But the brand of mech that we've been seeing from GuMiho, not just in that last game, although it perfectly encapsulates it, has been so macro focused that it almost feels, I mean, revolutionary is kind of a bit of an exaggeration or a stretch here, but it feels very different from the mech that I have gotten used to seeing, in that we're seeing Terran reach 90+ workers in all of these bases. They're keeping pace kind of the same way that Hero did for a while in PvZ.
Yeah.
GuMiho's doing that in TvZ with mech, and you'll see Rogue, like in that last map, take some really good fights after being in a tough position in the center to stop the max push from GuMiho. And you're thinking that the pendulum is swinging back in the other direction and that now Rogue is going to gain the momentum, but GuMiho is just so rich. And even though he isn't able to push across the map and kill you outright in one fell swoop, it's almost a war of attrition because his pockets are so deep. He has so much money coming in, especially minerals for Cyclones, for Hellions and Hellbats. It's very impressive what we've been seeing. By the way, really nice control of this Reaper, almost hitting that one drone.
Yeah, you know, I think that Rogue was trying to kind of take him head on, and it seems sort of like it was working, but, you know, to your point, State, with the 90 workers, that's a cute spot for a third base.
Yeah.
With the 90 workers, yeah, he just had this, like, such an engine behind it that he was printing units. Oh my God.
Reaper got killed so hard, it just disappeared
Just
from the map.
disappeared, yeah. Just gone forever.
Eventually they're going to fix that.
Yeah, not this season though. Yeah, you know, it was like maybe the Zerg did want to counterattack a little bit more and try to kill workers a little bit more. I know in the last game, if you go back, I was talking about how it seems like if you get enough tanks, even if they try to counterattack, you can kind of give up some bases as Terran and just like kill like their 3 most close bases, and usually the Terran can kind of hang on and recover from there. But you know, it was kind of impressive to see just how powerful he was. Maybe we should have some more smaller counterattacks like that. I don't know. But with the third base being hidden down here, this won't be the easiest spot to hold or defend from harass. I mean, there's a reason why Zergs don't take bases this far away.
We have a ton of Lings getting produced right now by
Yeah,
Rogue.
I think what he's going to do is actually just go Massling Roach, and he doesn't care about this as far as a macro game, which actually might explain the whole reason for having a third base where the fourth base or even a much later base would be, right?
I think he's going to just try and flood the natural expansion. His Overlord, we can see on the mini-map, just to the northeast of GuMiho's expansion, it's spotting the wall in and seeing that there's only one depot. It is wide open. GuMiho, he's moving across the map with all of his Hellions. There's only 4 Marines back at home. These Lings can get a lot of damage done tasteless. First Hellion immediately getting surround. These SCVs, they are in a panic.
Yeah, these SCVs can't really do that much. You know, the drawbridge has been closed, so a lot of worker kills are going to happen here. The Hellions are going to come down. The medevac are going to join them here with these Marines. This is a lot. And by the way, Zerg is droning behind this. So the idea was to basically come in here and really beat up the Terran in a moment where the Terran probably thought they were going to have priority on the map and be able to harass and develop. Instead, the Zerg strikes first.
Yeah, very cool move from Rogue, and I actually don't know if GuMiho's even spotted this third base. He's scanning on the natural expansion and seeing double gas, and I believe with the Hellions, he checked the triangle third, and he checked the 3 o'clock position and saw no expo. So he's building a bunker right now. He doesn't know that Rogue is droning up on 3 hatcheries. He has no idea about this bottom right base. And one of the beautiful things about this build from Rogue, he floods the base of GuMiho with the Lings, I think at the same time that he saturated the base in the bottom right, knowing the GuMiho is going to pull everything back. And so there wasn't even a drone transfer to telegraph this hidden expansion. Oh, GuMiho. StarCraft 2 is very much a game of information, and GuMiho has been fed some serious disinformation here in map number 2. I love this from Rogue.
That was really cool to see. So we're going to have a Hellbat drop. 2 Hellbats are going to come up here. But Terran actually never figured out where this other base was, so this may be a game that's a lot more confusing here for GuMiho as he's trying to figure out what's going on. And, you know, Zerg's ready for the drop over here. I guess you could try to just sidestep this and maybe plop these guys right down on top of some workers. The pull away is good enough that he doesn't actually lose any. Oh, no, I'm sorry, he lost 3 drones, excuse me, but didn't lose that much.
Yeah, he's mostly going to be fine, especially sitting on 60 drones right now. You make those in the main base, and you're happily pumping roaches for the foreseeable future here as Rogue. And for GuMiho, again, keep in mind, he went for that really fast third command center. He would have loved to plant this a couple of minutes ago, but his economy just got so derailed by the initial lane push, and then also not really knowing what the game state is with that Rogue hiding that third base. And now Rogue is moving across the map. GuMiho might still think this is a 2-base all-in, but Rogue is basically on a full 3-base economy.
But, you know, this is an attack that's going to be a lot more successful than, like, the one that we saw in the previous game where he just ran into siege tanks. In fact, we don't really have many siege tanks here at all, right? So there's not a whole lot that can fight this in kind of an abusable position. In fact, we have 2 more factories finishing up over here. Maybe siege tanks will come then, but it does feel a little bit late. It almost feels like Zerg, if they wanted to, could try to come in here and attack again as this third command center lands.
It seems like the main purpose of this force is just to prevent the SAVs from coming to this third base and hopefully also prevent a landing of that orbital. There's Roaches and Hydras also in production. It's going to be another Hellbat drop here in the main base. Not too much to defend, but Hydras are going to finish from that hatchery very quickly.
Yeah, it looks like the Queen can't quite fight this. He's trying to hit that medevac. And, you know, Hellbats just don't have a lot of range, so they're driven back. The third CC still can't land. God, he should, okay, is he watching? I was going to say, if he's not looking, you could actually bile that and actually get so much value.
GuMiho might still think that this is like a two-base pressure build from Rogue because he scanned the base going down like the 3-4 o'clock position on the map, that hatchery while it's been building. He might think that he's in a much better economic position. Little does he know that Rogue is basically maxed. 70 drones, ton of Roaches and Hydras. This is a very tricky position for GuMiho. I don't know if he's going to be able to weasel his way out of this one with some tricky mech shenanigans. The Banshee will be able to shoo away this, but we have like almost 20 Hydras on the board already.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be such an impressive attack coming here from Rogue. He really set up a good position for himself. Like a lot of really smart ideas happening here. And all he has to do, assuming he attacks in, and he is just to flatten the third over and over. And he might be able to just, you know, take it all the way up into the main. He's going to branch out, so he's got like a nice 180-degree surround, maybe a little top heavy. He's going to send a couple Roaches down here to the bottom. And I mean, I see like 6 tanks on screen, maybe one or two more, but yeah, I mean, this is just going to get completely overwhelmed. Now, the Banshees are doing damage, but can they kill all this off in time? I'm not so sure. In fact, if one Overseer were to come through here, these Hydras could take this out as well. We may just be going into game 2 immediately. Or game 3, excuse me, immediately.
Rogue just was such a cool strategy here. Even though siege tanks there in the natural expansion were not actually sieged up as Biles rain down on this camp. In the main base, GuMiho says GG. A beautifully crafted strategy by Rogue. Everything worked so well in Synergy, just feeding GuMiho the wrong information all on the back of that initial link flood.
That was really sick. I don't know that he can recreate that. That's like a very unique game. I can't imagine how confusing it was for GuMiho. It was like perfectly, and I thought it might have actually just been kind of an all-in. But no, it was like just laying enough to punish medevac moving out. He knew exactly when that medevac was going to be done. Knew that GuMiho was going to be on the move to try to get damage, to try to get value. Killed the SCVs and was making drones as the Lings were attacking in. So then he was in a really good spot. And that really obscure third base location, GuMiho wasn't able to find it. Now, if he had found it, maybe he could have been dropping Hellbats there. Maybe it would have been a different game. But that's that. So we're going to go to game number 3 now. See who's going to take this between Rogue and GuMiho.
It's been an exciting series so far. Some very unique games.
Yeah.
Both on Maganatha and lane lines.
It's been really good. This has been a really fun series. I'm super excited for the TVCs we've got so far today. Our game is loading up, guys. I don't know who's going to take this. It's been insane so far. Rogue versus GuMiho, continuing on. Okay, Rogue down here in the bottom left, GuMiho in the top right. One takeaway I've got so far, I mean, excellent planning from Rogue in that game. You know, taking all the advantages he could create for himself and kind of bringing GuMiho to his knees before GuMiho could become this sort of unstoppable mech printing machine. But I don't know that Rogue actually has like some kind of overarching definitive play style or answer to take on that style that GuMiho is showing. GuMiho's looked really good at this so far. The first time to see GSL, welcome. So glad you guys made it.
Welcome. It's great having an audience.
Yeah, we're so glad you guys are down here. But yeah, I don't know that Rogue has like a clear play style if we get into late game. So maybe he does something tricky again, but I feel like GuMiho is going to be really hyper vigilant, looking out for anything tricky that's going on early on here.
I imagine he's going to be really conservative, because thinking back to game number 1, even though that attack just completely fell flat on its face, it felt like what Rogue had concocted with that Roach Hydra build on map 1 was designed to kill a GuMiho that's going really aggressive into the fast third command center and battle mech. Now, unfortunately, GuMiho leaned super heavily with 2 factory siege tank into defense right from the onset of that map number 1. But yeah, if there's anything that I can take away from Rogue, both in game 1 and game 2, it's that he wants to try and throw a wrench into the machine that is GuMiho, especially the economy of GuMiho, because frankly, again, going back to that map number 1, the economy is the scariest part of the way that he is playing. There was a moment in that game where he was down to, I want to say it was like 3 Cyclones and 3 Hellions against a Rogue that was nearly maxed. It was like maybe 150, 160 supply for Zerg. But GuMiho had so many bases, he had so much income, and he was able to remax on Cyclones and Hellions so quickly that Rogue could not get game-ending damage done, even though GuMiho had lost the majority of his army in the mid-game after one critically bad engagement. And so for Rogue, I think coming in here, by the way, really good control of these Lings. You know, 2 Lings on 1 HP. This one's going to escape like 2 hits away from Disaster. Rogue just barely skirting around Disaster with this queen timing and some nice micro. But I feel like for Rogue, you got to slow down the macro of GuMiho.
Yeah. I mean, counter-attacking maybe a little bit more would have been good. I don't know if any kind of Nidus network play is viable in this. Whenever I look at these games where it's like 3 command centers and they're attacking, it just seems to me like, you know, Nidus can't be a foolish move, right? You know, I mean, whether it's a Nidus in their main or a Nidus just like outside their third, it just feels like you can kind of overpower them, right? If there's this much tech, you know, upgrades and just SCV production. But I don't know, maybe we'll have it later on.
Actually have a second factory in production. Are we gonna get some Marauder Hellion? No, it's a Marine for now.
Oh no, you mean second barracks.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm second barracks, yes. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, this is, okay, so this is just not what GuMiho did in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Now, he did get a quick third command center, but he's basically going to go for some kind of a push. It could just be like a, maybe Hellbats?
Yeah, I was
Stim Marines with medevacs coming out here?
Yeah, I was thinking something like that when I saw the tech lab, that he might queue up some Marauders and pump out some more Hellbats, but this could also just be some buyer from GuMiho. I feel like if we were casting any other Terran player...
Yeah, we just like say something normal, instead we have to speculate and make it weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it could just be kind of an unusual timing attack to come out here and hit. You know, there's a world, too, where Rogue might be cutting corners like a crazy person because he's just already deciding that, you know, there's going to be 2 more factories made in the second here. And so instead of worrying about how to attack in like he did in the first game, oh, he's going to run to the main. Oh, my God, really good trapping there.
Wow, some really fancy micro from Rogue in this game.
And he's not going to get in the main, so he doesn't see anything.
Oh, he didn't see the Spire. And
yeah.
How many Lings even went down? I feel like nothing died there for Rogue.
I mean, nothing that you don't mind losing.
Yeah,
You're always happy to give away Zerglings to take out something like that in a push.
And GuMiho was basically just playing bio. I feel like we've just been trying to concoct like, oh, what is this tricky build that GuMiho is doing here in game number 3 because it's GuMiho, but this is just looking like an Agrax, honestly.
Yeah, it's actually the most normal build ever. This is the build you teach your friends so they can learn how to play the game. He scans and he sees the Spire coming, and this is probably going to prompt movement on the map here from GuMiho. And we don't have the 4th hatchery, by the way. I don't know that the actual push is going to come. I thought it was. It's going to be just a drop for now, just to see if he can get anything, maybe kill off Overlords, kill off Creep Tumors, stuff like that.
Relatively low drones, too. 49 drones right now with a bunch of mutas about to be queued up. So we have Rogue kind of poking and prodding here. He can actually get us around maybe on some of these SCVs. Only a couple of them being sent down to the 3rd base. GuMiho showing a lot of respect. Look at the minimap. You can see basically all of the SCVs got pulled from a natural expansion as he tests the water here on the front lines. But Rogue just has so many forces out on the map right now. He's playing a very aggressive style of Zerg, very heavy into the army. He's going to be looking to get some damage done. A ton of mutas about to finish, and now he's going to come in to that 3rd base. But GuMiho, he is preempting this. He's already going for the wall in here, the natural expansion. The Marines are in a fantastic defensive spot. I almost feel like for Rogue, you need to wait until Baneling's speed is done. to be able to push into that third base with those Marines so firmly entrenched within the minerals. That is just a tough position to attack into with Ling Muta.
So he's going to go for Ling Bane now. I mean, I think the Marines are turtled pretty well, but that can end up getting punished when you don't have any tanks, right? Because then they're just, unless they can snipe every Baneling, they are just going to get hit. He's going to try to pick up. He's going to pull away, but the SCVs are exposed.
SCV's exposed, but no big Baneling connections on them again. There's no Baneling speed, so 4 SCVs are going to fall. Some of the Marines are going to fall, but overall, it feels like a relatively cost-efficient trade here for GuMiho. Keep in mind that Rogue, again, is on relatively low economy. Only 56 workers, a couple of them getting trickled out. Still no 4th hatchery here for our Zerg player, so he kind of needs to get damage done. Baneling speed only just now finishing, but this pure Marine medevac army from GuMiho, if he can control the Baneling count the way that he has been, it is going to be very challenging for Rogue to take a favorable trade. Ling Muta, with no +1 Carapace against +1 pure Marine, is not going to trade well over this next minute.
He's just started his 4th hatchery, by the way. This is, you know, a push. Normally the push kind of comes out as the 4th hatchery finishes, before the drones can take all the benefits of the expansion and kind of feed that into production. So he's going to be pushing out. Now, I don't even know if Terran's going to be pushing towards the 4th base or not, but the point I'm trying to make is that Zerg basically invested in being pretty aggro early on, and now it's going to be the Terran's turn for the counterpunch. And yeah, I mean, it's in a position, this hatchery halfway done.
All right, that's a big flock of Muta now coming into the natural expansion. Eyeing that engineering bay, but GuMiho just been so on point with his Marine positioning. Doing a very good job deflecting these Mutas. Rogue's just going to take whatever he can get. One refinery and also a couple of SCVs there with the glaives. This +1 Carapace is now complete, so relatively equal on the upgrades. I do believe, yeah, GuMiho does have a 2nd engineering bay, I think, done. So +2 infantry weapons starting well before +1 infantry armor is done. Ooh, +1 armor actually might get denied.
That's a juicy one. The SCV is running here to repair, and I think he can save it.
Ooh, very close, though. At the same time, there's a drop here. Bottom of the map, but with Lings and Banelings coming in.
No way to target those Banes with that weird angle they were coming down. The Medivacs kind of cover it up. The Mutas are still in the main, doing quite a bit of damage. The drop is going on, but there might just be enough Banes and Lings you can kind of aim move to wherever the problem is, and the Terran has to play keep away.
I want to watch these Mutas. I'm looking at the minimap again. They're going into that mineral line. The missile turret falls. Marines aren't going to be able to push this away. +1 infantry armor did complete here for GuMiho. His missile turret barely surviving. He's actually going to go for the SCVs instead and hope that GuMiho isn't watching. One of my connections not the best, actually injuring the bio quite a bit. Some of these Marines, they don't have enough HP to stim. So they are going to get caught there. Some really nice trades here for Rogue. These Mutas are still getting damage done, Tasteless.
The Mutas are doing a lot right now, but the infantry are still able to push. They've got sustain with a lot of Medivacs backing this up. I don't see enough Banes just yet. A good surround, and he's going to have to pick up and relocate, but the pressure can continue on here. Oh my God. This
so
actually,
many SCVs.
This might just be a win for the Mutas. I mean, we're at 27 SCV kills here. 73 drones to 41 SCVs. The Mutas are still moving around. They're still getting work done.
These Mutas just getting so much value. Even coming in, might be able to catch 1 medevac. Oh, barely missing it. I was wondering this whole time, as GuMiho is going for the drops at the 6 o'clock position, why isn't Rogue bringing the Mutalisks back to just stop this drop? But he recognized wisely that the potential for aggression there with those Mutas was so much more valuable than just stopping GuMiho from getting a couple of chip damage in, you know, at the 3rd base, at the 4th base, at the natural expansion here for Rogue. And what a great call that was. I think 30 plus SCVs fell or near it for GuMiho, as add-ons just continuously get taken out here. I feel like this is the 2nd or the 3rd add-on that has fallen here for the factories. The factory even is low on HP. This Thor, Rogue goes in for the magic box. Luckily, GuMiho is able to lift that away.
Oh my
and now
God.
there's a Ling Flood at the 3rd base. Rogue is looking really good. He's actually going to be able to deny +3.
God.
It barely survives.
You should have just gone for it. You should have gone for it.
The SCV doesn't get there in time. It burns down.
I mean, oh, man. you know, we were talking about the fact that if Rogue's going to win this, it's going to have to be with him basically stopping Terran before he starts. But this time, Terran went for the infantry play, not the mech. But you can see this is the kind of game Rogue is much more comfortable in. You know, the classic TVZ we've known since StarCraft 2 came out, you know, Muta, Ling, Bane versus infantry comp, medevac, you know, some tanks here and there. And, you know, while this damage has been dealt, it's been tremendous. Over on GuMiho's side of the map, Rogue is expanding. He's looking really good. You know, as far as workers go, GuMiho's still trying to catch up. It's 59 SCVs now to 87, which is an absurd amount of workers, and the harassment's still coming in.
Rogue is doing a phenomenal job in this game, getting so much damage done. Oh, he's actually rolling in these Banelings. Not the best connections there for Rogue. He was hoping to catch GuMiho sleeping as he sent those links to the 12 o'clock position, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to do it. Now, GuMiho, although it might look like he is down and out, he has a much bigger standing army here than Rogue, and it seems like he's basically done trying to put out all these fires that Rogue is lighting on his side of the map. He's saying, okay, you know what, my win condition in this game is to kill you with the army that I've got right now, plus 3 infantry weapons. It's not in the cards for me. I'm gonna go for this game-ending push. Rogue, with those 90 workers, he's not gonna have a lot of supply available for army, but the remax potential is really high here for Zerg. Oh, those Banelings roll in. Some nice connections there on the front lines.
Okay, they're going to try to come through now. This just looks too small here from GuMiho.
Yeah, where's the rest of the army?
I actually, you know, Rogue's still getting work done with those mutas, but I kind of thought the mutas would just fly back home and clean this up. But, I mean, he's getting so much done right now. It's kind of insane.
I actually thought there was way more here for GuMiho. Looking at the army supply, it was what, 110? And then we pan over the army that he has there at the actual, or the fourth base, and Rogue just with overwhelming numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Liberators with nothing to guard right now. The mutas are going to take out this command center, I think. Yeah, Planetary going down. Right now, Terran's on 2 command centers, with 1 missing inside of his main.
Lings and Banelings rolling in, but there's basically no bio. 1 medevac going to get lifted up, and now the Mutalisks come back here. All these Liberators are going to be taken out. GuMiho, he is recharging for another attack, and I think finally this is all of the Forzas really coming to the front line here for GuMiho. It's what we were expecting a moment ago with that initial push at 6 o'clock. And Roki has spent his bank. There isn't much left in terms of remax potential as these Banelings are morphing in, but the standing army for Zerg is really strong. He's going to be rolling in all these Banelings, trying to find the connections onto the Marines. Very good spreads here for GuMiho as the Mutas are going to be able to take out that door on the left side. I think the Zerg reinforcement is just a little bit too much. Even with 2-2, it is not enough. GG is called, and Rogue is looking so good, Taste. You can see the relief on his face, a little bit of a smile. That was a really good ZBT series, and if Rogue is playing like that, man, we're gonna have a hell of a day of games.
I know, that was a fun one. Rogue defeating GuMiho. I gotta say, for me, that was a bit of an upset. You know, GuMiho has looked so strong. I do question GuMiho's decision to revert back into bio play. You could see Rogue was just so much more proficient at handling that. Really cool to see how he just sort of leaned into the Mutalisk advantage. In my head, I think I expect some Zergs to go back and regroup and wipe out the push, but he was like, no, I'm killing so many SCVs. I'm actually going to take out like factories, eBays, command centers, everything else. Great game. Guys, we're going to a break. Coming up next, more TVZs. It's Solar versus Maru.